headphones.
All right. And we are live with our 26th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CKTricky on Twitter. I'm joined by my co-host, Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter. Seth, say hi.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming along today. We're joined today by Justin Larson. Justin has come along with us. He's actually at my house, I guess I should say, right? We're hosting it live today because he lives here in Salt Lake City with me. I've known Justin for a little while. He's at Phantom Traveler on Twitter. Right?
Yeah. At regret of my name.
At regret of my name. I don't know. I'm just at Seth Law, so at some point it became too much work to actually come up with something clever, so I just stuck with myself, right? I don't know. Ken, did you have more you wanted to?
No, but I think that Dave Corsi is going to be a little sad tonight. He's not going to be able to troll because he's doing dinner during the podcast. So he's not going to be able to troll Justin. I think he's a little upset. And
well, next time we'll just have to have him on at the same time. Just let him pop in and out of the hangout, right? Just so he can get his trolling quota in, right?
Yeah, we could do it real time.
Yeah. So, just a little bit of background on Justin, and I'll let you introduce yourself, and we'll do the traditional run through of how you got into security and everything here in a minute. I met Justin a couple of years ago at B-Sides, I think it was.
SaintCon.
Oh, it was SaintCon. It was like 3 or 4 years ago, right?
Yep. I was one of the only people in your town.
That's right. I gave a talk on about building application security programs at SaintCon, and I think you and Kelly and Sean was it, right?
And Chris was there too.
Oh, Chris was there. That's right, Chris.
Is it because you weren't dropping any shales? You weren't pounding anything?
Yeah,
you were just talking about common sense shit that has to happen?
A software development lifecycle and what you needed to do. And it wasn't the sexiest topic for those people.
I should probably find that video now. Into that.
Oh, that you're into that? I think I did that one a couple of times because I did it at B-Sides as well. And when we started organizing that, that was kind of as I got involved with organizing B-Sides. So Justin came to that. I can't remember where you were working at the time, but we talked a lot about, what we were doing. He came over. He worked with me and Ken at Invisium for a while.
So you ditched me. Yeah.
Yeah. Until Ken and I quit. Yeah, that's right. That sounds about right. It was all about you, Justin.
Exactly.
We were trying to get away.
We're like, enough with Justin.
Because we work so often together.
Yeah, that's just it, right? We're always, And then, he's since moved on from Invisium as well. He's doing application security. He's building an application security program. Currently, I guess, what's your title now?
Became a senior application security engineer.
Cool. So senior application security engineer at Jane.
Hyperinflated.
Right? Jane.com. If you don't know what that is, ask your wives or ask your significant others. They probably do. It's kind of a boutique that sells clothing.
Yeah, it's kind of like an Etsy where we're just a place where you can sell stuff and just a platform for that. So we don't actually sell anything.
Okay.
We let people sell their stuff on our platform. So
okay. See, and I know I've looked at it a few times, right? Like you've got sellers and then they have ratings and then they all log in. So there's quite a few different components. So similar to like an eBay or an Amazon or something like that, the platform for it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm actually looking at it right now. There's some pretty cool stuff on there.
Yeah. I got a Beats by Shroot shirt.
Well, you should have worn that one. And you could have won the T-shirt game.
Yeah, exactly. So Justin and I have talked security stuff for a number of years. We thought it'd be fun to have him come on and talk about building a program, right? He's kind of the first guy. We know Chris Henderson that works there as well. He was kind of the first security guy over there. And Justin's the first application security guy. There's a whole bunch of devs writing a bunch of insecure .NET code, I'm sure.
Maybe.
Right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So you can go, like we wanted to see, part of the impetus of having you on was to talk through what you're experiencing, what you're going through, because it's something that we all kind of have gone through at one point or another. And if you're in application security, you're going to run into it, right? It's not just it's not just all pen testing, right? It's not just all code review. There's a lot of dealing with developers and other things. So we thought it'd be interesting to get Justin's take on it now as he's first getting in. I mean, how long have you been at Jane now?
3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay. Yeah. So he's got enough of the lay of the land that we can get an initial understanding of what his approach is going to be. And then we can revisit in 6 months or so and actually talk about how things ended up, what went well, what didn't go well.
What have I failed at? What
Yeah.
have I succeeded at?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's kind of the format that we'll follow tonight. Ken will probably MC us. I don't have my laptop right in front of me. So if you've got questions, jump onto YouTube, jump into the Slack channel. Let us know what you would like us to talk about. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and dive right in.
You can also send, I do want to say, you can also send emails to absoluteappsec@gmail.com if you'd like your questions to be private or anonymous. I won't put your name out there. We won't put your name out there.
Ken will, but Justin will. So cool. Well, maybe let's start. I mean, since I've known you, you've been in the security field, right? That's what you were working on. Was it Workfront?
Yeah.
You were at? So maybe give us a little rundown of Justin,
my
where
story?
you came. Yeah, your
origin
story, your origin story, right?
So I guess it starts all the way back in high school. I took a programming class. I think we were writing with, I think it was called Dr. Scheme. I don't know if that sounds familiar. I think that was the language. It was it's kind of like Scratch, if you played with Scratch. But then the next year I took computer science, AP computer science, and it was C++. And that kind of got me going in that direction. I haven't looked at C or done C++ since, but I did pass the AP test, so that was good. But then I took off a few years, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and wasted a lot of time. And then I ended up at the University of Utah, and I was studying information systems. And I also had an internship at Novell, if anybody remember Novell. It was definitely after their heyday. But the first thing that led me down to the security path was we were a bunch of interns working on a collaboration platform, and it had a tiny MCE, I think that's what they call it, or editor.
Okay, yeah.
And it allowed JavaScript. And so we build these like dashboards or landing pages, and I put in JavaScript on the mouse over to Rickroll my team members. So it would just pop up the Rick Astley. And then a developer came over one day because he was working with us on something, and he saw that happen, and he's like, well, that's a cross-site scripting. I'm like, what's a cross-site scripting? And so that led me down the path to get interested in security. I started doing more of those types of tests on the application. And then I took a security class in college, like the only useful class that I took in college, I think. Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah. It's for suckers. But yeah, and I didn't get a job in security right out of college. I got a job as, I guess, a sysadmin on a NOC.
Okay.
The company was AtTask at the time. It later changed to Workfront, just a project management type place. And I was on that team for like a year and a half, and I did a lot. I have a weird background because I'm a sysadmin, but I also like to do development. I've never been like really trained on development, so it's like I'm not classically trained, I guess you could say. So it's all been like on my own, and like I built a lot of tools that we used on the NOC, like visualizing traffic and some other dashboards and stuff like that. And that caught the attention of our friend Chris.
Okay.
And he was on security. He's the only one on security, doing security at Workfront. and he wanted to bring me over to just do the same thing, like build dashboards, pulling. He had a bunch of tools that had APIs that he wanted data from. He wanted it all in one place, and so I landed over there. And it's funny. He gave me like a list or like the job description of what he wanted. It was the application security.
Okay.
And like it all terrified me because I didn't feel like good enough to do any of it. But he kind of took me under his wing and showed me what to do. And he's the reason I'm in security, I think. So like my goal out of college was to get into security like within 5 years. And so I was already like way ahead of my goal. So yeah, so I did security work front for a few years, and by the end, when I left, is when I was actually an application security engineer. I felt like,
Yeah.
and then I went to Invisium, and now I'm at Jane. So
Cool.
still feel like, I think because I'm not like I don't consider myself a real developer, that I don't like, I don't know, that insecurity of not being enough for application security, but it's just something we all have, I think, we can get over. But
yeah, I mean that imposter syndrome is pretty common. I mean, you know, I feel it all the time, especially because it's been so long since I've done like really active. I'm working on a big project development. I mean, I do the little stuff like, you know, Hacker Tracker and some of the security tools and stuff like that, but that's not the same as building, you know, a huge platform or, you know, being involved in an enterprise team with daily stand-ups and, you know, feature requests and all of that goes into it. So it's not uncommon, right? But I do think it's interesting because we do get a lot of, you know, crossover with the network security teams, definitely, right? Somebody that works in a NOC style environment, or as a system administrator, like there's a lot of that tooling. Mm-hmm. When I was coming up, because I did some Java development for iOmega, right? But then I got pulled over to the, you know, sysadmin team to do tooling, right? It's basically what it was. And luckily there was one guy, I mean, there was a lot of crossover between the two teams at that time, but it was, you know, we took it pretty seriously as far as how we were going to actually write some of those tools and, you know, make sure that it was properly done. But yeah, I mean, the crossover happens all the time. And at least you know what XSS is now, right?
Yeah. Kind of, I guess.
Kind of.
I found it a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so at this point, you've been in the industry or whatever for, you know, 10 years, I guess, somewhere around there.
No, it's like, so yesterday was like my 6-year anniversary of getting my first job. So I'm not even.
See, you're killing it. Yeah.
I feel pretty lucky. Listening to Jason 2 weeks ago, he struggled to get that push into security, it seemed like, and I kind of fell into it. So it's weird.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, I mean, what would your suggestions then be to someone that was on the development or the sysadmin side that wanted to make the jump to security?
Just let security know that you have an interest in that, if there is a security. If not, then do what Jason did and go out of your way to like be a secure developer or whatever type of security you want. Like, I think that was like when I first started at AppTask. I let them know that security is where I wanted to go. I didn't know there's so many avenues of security. Yeah. But I didn't know which one, but I let them know that. And if within the first couple of weeks, me and Chris were just talking about this the other day, like they were starting to give projects away, like diversified teams. And like I ended up, Chris gave me, I had to manage OSEC.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. But it was good. Not necessarily application security stuff, but it was security events and all that stuff. So it was good.
Cool.
But I mean, I think the biggest thing is to make it known, like let people know that that's where you want to go. And then look for a mentor. Like And Chris was my mentor. And partly you, I would think, more towards the application security side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's been the biggest reason for my success.
Yeah.
Is
I mean, to be honest, right? And I think about like having mentors or having mentees or whatever it is, but
that's such a weird word.
I know it is, mentee. We're manatees. Ken, are you signed in twice? Oh, never mind. You're there.
No, yeah. So I'm sorry, I actually dropped off for a second there. Wi-Fi connections.
Oh, we're still running.
Fall asleep or
yeah.
No falling asleep.
No, what I was going to say about mentors and mentees and everything, right? Like when we talk about that path, we've talked about it a few times. Is actually getting active in the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you've helped out with Hack West and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You slowly expand that circle, and you kind of find those people that are interested in similar things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how Ken and I got to know each other as well, right? Well, I guess I did like hire Ken on over at Fishnet way back in the day, right?
Yeah, Seth was the one who interviewed me, as a matter of fact. You and Dave Ferguson, who is going to come on the show, as a matter of fact. But yeah, you and Dave Ferguson were the ones that interviewed me over at Fishnet to go from somewhat similar background, Justin, as yourself. Kind of started more on network and system admin side, and then but had an interest in programming and AppSec just because it was needed where I was at, and so similar kind of role. Was kind of lucky in a way.
Yeah, well, I think we all kind of feel that way, fortunate in finding our path to security, right? But there's very few people that I know of that we hired directly out of school into security, and even then, right? You hire them into some position, and that may not necessarily be the fit for them. So
yeah, I've definitely seen that more than once, where someone was hired for security and ended up saying, I mean, and I think we all three mutually know some people who were like, no, I don't want to do security anymore. I want to go back to development.
Yeah. It's definitely not for everyone, and there's no shame in that, right? Finding something that is, better for you or more up your alley, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I left Invisium. I love hacking and all that, but I like building things as well. Like probably more like the opportunity to build a program or like even just build apps to help with the application security is like something that I really want to get into. I miss like at Workfront. Another way to get I think involved is like working on open source projects. And Chris, he made me. We were working on Layer. I don't know if you've heard of Layer. It's like a framework to do collaboration during a pen test. And Tom Steele, I don't know if you know him, but he's the one that built it originally. And And I wrote some. They had what do they call them? It would just ingest like an Nmap result and then put it into Layer. And I wrote
like importers or something like that. Yeah.
And so I wrote a couple for some tools that I used. I can't even remember off the top of my head what they were. And then I spoke about it at B-Sides, probably the B-Sides after we met. And then also we built a tool called OSX Strata, which is funny. That's how we met Scott or got in contact with Scott. When he worked at Yelp, he built or he was on a team that built OSX Collector.
Okay.
And we were doing it does forensics on OSX machines and puts everything into a big JSON file.
Yeah.
And me and Chris were running that, and we would do forensics on these machines, and it would take still like a long time, like a week or so to like go through it with JQ and looking up all the information on this hash of this file is malicious or whatever. So we wrote Strata to pull in all the data, look at all the open source repositories of like known files and like VirusTotal, like send off files at VirusTotal and other places. So we presented on that at SANCON as well. But that was just like a cool way to get involved, I think. Although I haven't really maintained that, but I think that's the usual thing in open source.
Yeah.
We're looking to maybe revise it and rebuild it. I built it all with Meteor.js, it's kind of gone downhill. So I'll probably rebuild it with just Node. Or you do Ruby, right, Ken?
Yeah, which we were talking about earlier. People hating on JavaScript or Ruby, which is
which one is worse, right?
That's Stefan.
Yeah, where's Stefan?
We need Stefan. Where is Stefan?
He'll pull out some language none of us have heard about, but that'll be the solution. Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I don't know. Language arguments are always, because I mean, I get a lot of like people messing with me about the whole Ruby thing. And my stance is always the same. Use the language you feel like using for, whatever, if it's the most effective thing for, it's like saying, because I have a hammer, I can't use a wrench. Like, it may not be the most appropriate thing given whatever task you're going for, or may be the appropriate thing. It's just an argument. I'm always kind of like, That having been said, I don't know if you all caught it, but is it Ryan, the creator of Node.js? Is it Ryan? Sorry, give me one sec here, because he did like Ryan Dahl. So he did a talk on the 10 things he regrets about Node.js, and like interestingly. And I'll paste a link in here. Interestingly, one of those things is security. So the NPM. I mean, yeah,
that's why they took over the NSP group, right? The Node Security Project people.
Yeah.
They're now officially a part of NPM, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, and what's crazy is that, what was it, just 2 weeks ago or something like that, we had the malicious NPM package that was installed where it what did it do? I think it had access to the file system, right? So it did. Come again?
ELINT scope or something like that, or
ESLint scope, I think, yeah. And so it had access to the file system, and I think it was reading your NPM creds and then uploading it to a server or something along those lines. It was exfilling your NPM config files, which have tokens in them, which is why I think that they had ended up having everybody rotate their tokens. So, and I think, but I'd have to look at his talk, but I can't remember if it was like because NPM had.
Uh-oh.
He froze.
He froze again. All right. So something with NPM. Well, we'll keep talking then. So, as far as other projects that you've worked on, well, and maybe we'll just dive straight in, since we have lost Ken somewhere along the line here. He is out. So let's talk about your approach, right? I mean, that was the next thing that we wanted to get into anyway, was kind of what you're finding going into a program where there is no security, right?
Yeah.
So, stepping into that role, what is the first thing that you jumped into? What was the first thing that you did? Ken, you're back now.
Yeah, I was just saying, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but just to close that whole thing out, I just thought it was interesting because I think
Uh-oh. Can you hear it? Well, I think it's still going. Are we still online?
No, it wasn't working. Slack.
You're on Slack. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what's going on tonight.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that us, or is that your connection that's dropping?
I think it's my connection. I think it's my repeater.
Okay. So you were saying? You found it interesting that, and then it crashed.
That Ryan Dahl just did this talk on NPM being insecure, and that in terms of package management, and then we have this issue not very long after where that's exploited. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. But I did put the link to the talk in the YouTube chat.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, everybody should go check that out. I remember when he did. I mean, there's that talk, but I felt like there was something a while ago that he actually put up that was similar to that, right? Anyway, doesn't matter.
That's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. Is I've been just doing recon. I'm trying to figure out what we've got.
Yeah.
And so,
so give us an idea. Like, how many developers are you dealing with?
There's only 50, which is a pretty good ratio, I think, for security, application security. We'd obviously like more, but I mean, at Workfront, I was like 1 to 120 or something like that for a while. And then it was 2 for the whole group after a while. But so we've got 150 or so repositories. Not all of them are like prod stuff, but a lot of them are. We've got a lot of microservices and things like that. So the main monolith or stack is .NET. And then the others, there's some Node and React and things like that. So I'm trying to do a lot of just using open source dependency check and dependency track. Although dependency check does not support NPM or Node anymore, technically.
Oh, really?
Because it says it has a lot of false positives.
Huh.
So that's been a little frustrating.
So at that point, have you switched over to like NSP? We were just talking about NSP. Have you tried that instead? What is it? Sneak or Snick or whatever?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to say it. Snike. Yeah. The NPM, just the NPM audit, that runs whenever you do an NPM install, right? So that actually gives pretty good results, I've found.
Okay.
But I can't import that into dependency track where I want to hold all of it. So there's some, you can get it gives like a bill of materials. There's a script, there's a project out there that you can do to import the bill of materials into dependency track, and then it'll look up the stuff, the vulnerabilities for those packages or dependencies. But it's just clunkier.
Yeah.
And I kind of went full bore, and I was thinking I was going to use dependency track and dependency check, and I wrote scripts to like pull in all the repositories in one swoop. And for NPM audit and dependency track, it has to be installed. It can't be a locked package JSON.
Okay.
It has to be, it has to have the node modules installed. So I wrote the script to like install, NPM install, and then run the checks. And it takes like an hour or so to run and then import into dependency track. And I'm finding that I don't like it. Might be one of those situations where it's better to buy some like a sync or whatever it is instead of dependency track. But we'll see. I'm still looking to do a POC of that, and maybe I think it's Black Duck, something like that. So, but yeah,
it's always interesting. I didn't realize that Jeremy Long. Have you met Jeremy before? I didn't realize that they had dropped support for Node. Ken, did you know that?
No, but it doesn't surprise me. It's like the have you ever taken a, well, obviously Justin has taken a deep dive look at the at how those, at the complexity of all of the packages that end up getting included in a project.
Yeah,
it's not trivial.
No, it's not, right? And it never has been. I mean, that's where I do like swing towards something that is more native to the specific project, like NSP or Node Security Project. But yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work because you have to weed out the false positives.
Yep.
As security.
Wait. There's false positives?
Oh, yeah. Imagine that.
In a static analyzer? I am so surprised.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be the security guy that just throws stuff to developers without checking. Like,
Yeah.
then it immediately becomes competitive, and it doesn't work. And I did things like that at work from before I learned how to better work with developers. And so, I mean, it's a lot of time to sit and look at all stuff through dependency track and make sure that they're all real results. And so I think that might be the case to pay for something.
Yeah.
So, but
okay. So like your initial just like SWAT at, hey, I'm coming in, I'm the new guy.
Mhm.
First thing I want to do is understand what's out there.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, realistically, that's what you're doing, right?
Yep.
Is what's out there and what dependencies we have, so that I understand kind of where the risk profile is at.
Yep.
What else are you doing? I mean, that kind of sounds like that's the technical side. What are you doing about kind of this relationship side? Like what you're saying, like you're not just throwing results to the developers.
Yeah. So right now, I'm formulating plans. It's not really
Okay.
much. I mean, we're trying to go to do like their like sprint demos and just kind of get involved that way. I'm going to work on picking one team to work with and roll out some processes around. I'm going to focus first on maybe doing some secure training with the developers, and then also static scans with like Puma Scan.
Okay. Yeah.
And get that process going, and then also working with the product owners. I really want to use Go SDL from Slack.
Yeah.
Even though it's written in PHP, it says Go SDL. But use that in the requirements and design phase to like get a risk assessment of like endpoints or whatever they're going to start working on. My goal is to be able to track from design all the way to deployment, like an endpoint, parameters are going into it, what kind of data, like the whole risk profile of that endpoint all the way through the whole process. And that's kind of where I want to go, and hopefully I can get there with those tools. But if not, then I'll build my own.
Build something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Go SDL, if you haven't played with it, you know, those of you that are watching, it's not a pen testing tool, right? The whole idea is that it's a program tool, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have something that a developer can come into and say, you know, give you the details about the application so that you can then pen test. You can then figure out if you need to do some sort of a static analysis on it, or if the risk profile is so low that you don't have to. It's interesting that Slack has released, like, you know, that they built the tool and then turned around and released it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest equivalent that I can think of from past jobs is something like an Archer, or like a almost a bigger project management utility, right?
Yeah.
But that's pretty specific to software development life cycle, as opposed to just your generic project management.
Yeah.
So have you already rolled that out at all?
Oh, no.
Try to?
No, I'm playing with it right now to see if it'll actually work
Yeah.
in our environment. Like I haven't done that much. Like I was commissioned first to do AWS.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of skills in AWS stuff. So just going in there and doing some auditing of the environment's been my number one thing lately. So not specifically AppSec, but it's definitely still.
Oh yeah, it's pretty related. I mean, we always talk about the keys and the the stuff that gets stored. And
yeah.
I mean, Ken, have you played with Weird Al yet?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Me and Callahan tried it on a test a few weeks ago.
Sweet.
A month ago. Yeah. So it was good.
Yeah.
It could use some TLC and some updating, but
it's an open source project,
Yeah.
so you guys probably will never do another commit, right?
No. I mean, I haven't done much on it at all lately, but that's really Chris's. He's the lead project lead, so if stuff doesn't get done, you can complain to him.
Pass the buck. Yeah, that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Hey, it's not under my repo, then and it's under his, then that's exactly how that's going to go.
I don't get the stars for that. Come on, what are you thinking?
Exactly. Hey, there was a question on what Slack. What was the name of the Slack application for that you had mentioned?
It's Go SDL, I think.
Oh, SDL. Interesting.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it,
I
you should
haven't.
be able to find it. Just look up Go SDL, all one word, and then Slack, and it'll point you at the PHP application that they've written.
Why? No.
Well, so my question there is like, okay, he's building this program. Ken, you're working at I mean, what, like a Fortune 10 now, right? That it's now that it's Microsoft, or soon enough.
Oh God. Also, you like how I said that any programming language can be used for any given task, and then I immediately shit on PHP. I'm a giant hypocrite.
That's not PHP or ASP. We're just talking.
PHP doesn't get a vote. It doesn't count. No. What was your question? Oh yeah, you said something about something Microsoft, something. I'm a shill who works for Microsoft. So I don't know, something like that.
There we go. Yeah, I just needed to have you like admit that you were the shill. No. So my question is, being at GitHub, you guys aren't the largest organization either, and obviously you're bigger than Jane, than the team that Justin's dealing with. But what sort of process do you have to onboard applications, and what is it that you're using? I mean, I'm sure you're using GitHub for a lot of that, but how does that actually look internally to you?
When you say, well, yeah, so part of the whole thing is, I think when you say onboard, you mean like deploy into production?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that stuff has to go through essentially an ops group if it wants to get deployed, and as part of the effectively kind of the checklist for what all gets as part of the checklist. It's hey, you need to open a review for us to take a look and to see if it basically allow us to classify it as what domain it sits on, what level of access it gets, what priority, in terms of risk classification. I shouldn't say priority, I should say what risk classification does it hold? Because remember, we don't want to put everything on github.com, like a subdomain of github.com, if it doesn't make sense, right? There's a lot of apps that belong to GitHub, so but only ones that we would consider, I guess, high. I don't want to say high risk. I'd say high. I would say high business priority. Like they, for one reason or another, they fall under that that classification. That would sit, those limited number of apps can sit on github.com. The rest might go to githubapp.com or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of. And then you see some, like for instance, all the pages sites, they go to github.io, subdomain of github.io. So again, that's kind of like how, at a very high level, we kind of do it. You have to go through a process. We classify where it goes, or help classify, or help work with developers, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the question, is how it responds and how you're actually able to build out that process. I mean, is there already something for you to slot into as far as a build process or a deployment process?
They're actually working, they don't have anything documented like SDLC type.
Okay.
So that is actually something they're working on. So it's actually good that I'm sliding in now, so we can build the whole SDLC while security is being built. So it's so I don't feel like such a foreigner coming in and saying this baby's ugly.
Yeah.
Thing. So yeah, I'm just trying to get into those processes. There's going to be cool.
By the way, if it helps at all, if you have speaking of GitHub, if you have a repository for tracking those types of new apps coming online or things like that, you can create templates on github.com. You guys might know this already, but and then when you open an issue, it's already got a template of questions that they should fill in, sort of like you would with a Google form, and then just fill it in and then submit the issue.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what Go SDL does as well.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes, similar questions, like obviously if the developers are just gonna fix a drop down like security, like we probably don't need to be that involved. But if they're changing authentication flow, that's something we really want to be aware of. Like I've talked to Chris a lot about this, but I think the biggest battle for security is trying to figure out, like, to know what your risks are, and the unknown is way worse than the known.
Yeah.
Even like just because you know, you're way ahead of the game if you know those risks, because you can prepare for the eventual demise or whatever. But I mean, that's the biggest battle I think that we face, is trying to figure out the unknown and figure out what people are hiding from us.
Well, I mean, in an organization where you're only 50 devs, it seems like that would be an easier thing to figure out, right? Like all your code's hosted in one location, or it should be. It's all going through kind of a standard process, being pushed out to, AWS in your instance, And so, like, I imagine you can kind of get your hands around that. I think about some of the times that I spent at the bank, right? Like at Zions Bank, I worked there for a while, and that's an organization that's been around for 100 years, and they've had developers since whenever they installed that first mainframe, like IBM way back in the day. So there's code there that's running that they don't even have decompiled anywhere, right? They don't have the source code for it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's fairly critical to, hey, one portion of running the ledger in the mainframe. So
is that the code that you left there?
Yeah, that's the code that I left there. That's the code I didn't touch, that we weren't allowed to look at or breathe on. But that was always the biggest challenge with them, was there were so many disparate organizations. As a security team, we had no idea what our risk profile was, right? It was like, hey, we knew about zionsbank.com, and we knew that the mainframe and where it was, and X, Y, and Z, but some like little old lady would retire from the bank and a critical function stopped happening, and all of a sudden people are scrambling because she's no longer there to fill out one form that that the general ledger needs to complete its daily processing, right? So that sort of stuff you just had no idea until somebody actually stepped away. And like, so I feel like there's a good, like, you have a good opportunity to wrap your hands around it and actually put something in place, right?
Like, I think Jane is about 7 years old, so it's not like a new company, but it still feels like a baby, like its infancy in the process and things like that. So there's still plenty of opportunity to get in there and make sure we start doing things the right way and don't get old habits and things like that. So
deploy some more microservices. Is that,
that is the new thing. So it works well if you built it that way.
Yeah.
So that's all we've done. But like, it's like at Workfront, there was a move to AWS, and as soon as developers got wind of that, like there were, I want to say like 8 or 9 AWS accounts spun up, like separate accounts.
Yeah.
Like, not just like separate IAM users, like separate AWS accounts. And we had no idea what was going in or where. It was a little terrifying and frustrating because there was no process behind it and things like that. So we built another tool that pulled in all the CloudTrail logs and all that stuff and monitored. But and just learning, trying to figure out what is going on and knowing it, at least. Like we were able to determine like a whole bunch of people were using root to log in without multi-factor setup, and then it's really fun to watch like CloudTrail logs of security groups when they set it up first the right way, like specified port, and like if they're just wanting to hit it from their IP address. And then 5 minutes later, the same security group changes to 0.0.0/0.
Yeah.
It's very enlightening, and it's good to know because then we can prepare for that, I guess. But it's fun to watch that.
Well, hopefully it won't be as bad. Yeah,
No, it's not. So far, it's a lot better. But
no, I mean, I will be interested to hear what tools you end up using, right? Both from a like, hey, this is what we're running the program with, right? Whether Go SDL works, I've got somebody that I'm working with right now that's going through something similar, right? They've got a process like a form that they've built that somebody like inputs a whole bunch of data about an application, but there's no central like place for them to go to actually figure out how many applications exist. Right. So people will put random things in there, and then it's like, all right, well, we're going to go do a full blown, assessment against this application. And it turns out that it's some backend microservice that's used by one other application that, it just doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
But that's a fairly common problem to have as you grow and you get bigger.
Yeah. I think a big thing is to have a data classification policy. That way you can know where to focus.
Yeah.
So.
Is that something that they've already built? Is that something you and Chris have
done? Chris has,
I don't want you to reveal too much about what,
It's all good. Chris has said, I haven't seen the actual policy, but he says he's done it.
He said,
and so
he gave it to an auditor.
Yeah, sure. Like we're in a weird place at Jane because there's no compliance driving security, which is odd for me, coming from Workfront and other companies that we worked for at Invisium. Like everything is compliance driven. We have to do a certain amount of things to pass compliance. At Jane, we don't have that because we don't handle any credit. Well, we handle credit cards, but we don't store credit cards or anything. We don't have customer data that needs protecting, so we don't have to do SOC audits. We're a private company, so Sarbanes-Oxley doesn't apply. So it's one reason I went there was because the CTO wanted security. Mm-hmm. And so at Workfront, when we started security, we were trying to push security up through the teams, and we got a lot of frustration and mad people at us, right?
Yeah.
But here at Jane, it already feels better. Like it feels good because they want to push security from the top down.
Yeah. And
so it makes our job easier to go in and say we need to fix this, and I won't say like if you don't, I'm going to tattle on you, or like we're going to go higher. Like I don't want to be that guy, but like the CTO wants a culture that is more aware of security, and so.
I mean, that's when we go back to like the talk that I gave like years ago, like building application security in, right? That was one of the things that I always like to harp on was you've got to find an executive sponsor, right? Yeah. There's got to be somebody high up in the organization that takes security seriously, because if you don't have that backing, it's going to be very hard to change organizational behavior. Mm-hmm. I mean, we definitely saw that. The bank, it was easier with you've got the huge compliance.
Yeah.
Hey, if you don't do this, then we don't pass, or FFIC or whichever audit, like FDIC or yeah. And so it was a lot easier to force people into it, and even those executives. But there were times that you were only doing security for compliance sake, not for security's sake. Yeah. And that's where it becomes, I mean, that's more of an ideal situation, right?
Yeah,
that's what we hope.
A fine line between the compliance and security. Like having compliance for security, like it can become just a box checking machine.
Yeah.
Which nobody wants.
Nobody
on security wants.
Yeah. The company, it may be cheaper for them to do it that way. Yeah. But you're right. Nobody in security wants it that way. Cool. Well, I know we're almost to 5 o'clock here, but at least where we're at, Ken.
Yeah, I was like, it actually did make you pause for a second. Like,
not quite. But we do want to, if you don't mind, we will schedule something else out, a few months and just kind of check in, because I think it would be interesting to have those discussions on how things are moving, how you're feeling like building the relationships with the developers is going.
My excellent adventure.
Your excellent adventure, right? Your excellent adventure in building out a security program. Because we get slotted in at multiple different times, right? Like the tools that would be useful to you and to me helping a client or something like that. They're different, but it's very much kind of the same approach that you have to take. It's just we're at different stages of building these programs out, right? Yeah. I mean, Ken's program is completely formed at this point, pretty much.
Yeah, I got lucky. I mean, I inherited, I joined a team where these things were already like 4 years of working on it before I even got there. So things are much more mature, and, I'm lucky. I didn't have to do a whole lot in terms of, trying to get people to buy into security and whatnot and get stuff started. So I'm fortunate enough to just relay any stuff that, people might ever have questions on. I can show you how somebody else did it, but in this case, didn't do it myself.
I got a question for you, Ken. So you guys have product security teams and application security teams?
I almost said something about that, by the way, because you were talking about wanting to build stuff, and we were talking about people that want to build stuff. And I almost said, that's the routes, like you're seeing people kind of diverge within AppSec is like doing assessments. And Neil's a good example of that. Neil Matado, I'm always saying his name wrong. Anyways, Neil from GitHub and at NDM on Twitter, he kind of went out of the assessment path and more into the, building in security features. Anyways, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh no.
Okay, we lost him again. Well, when he comes back, we'll talk through it. So we'll have you back on. We'll talk through kind of what the experience has been. Grill you again about all the things.
Yeah,
because that's what you want, right?
I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. His question was related to like application security versus product security, right? Like what the differentiation was for you guys at GitHub. Maybe. Dang it. I don't even know if you heard the question. So
I didn't hear the question.
AppSec versus ProdSec. What are they?
Oh, okay. And hopefully I don't cut out for this. I'm almost gonna have to have you guys blink so I don't make sure I'm just do jazz hands and I'll know if you're good. Anyways, AppSec, think of it as doing assessments and review, defense sort of type thing. And you can think of ProdSec as more of the offense, building in the security features. For instance, at GitHub today, you may or may not have seen the release where I have been pwned database is tied to like password resets, signing up and creating an account. Anytime you enter in a password, you change a password or create a password. And that's tied into I have been pwned's database. So effectively, looking to make sure you don't set your password as a compromised password. That's an offensive type of thing, embedding two-factor auth into the sign up or, login flow rather. Those are things that are considered to be offensive in product security. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question well enough, but and I don't know if jazz hands, are we good?
Yeah,
okay,
you're still talking. So.
All right. Yeah.
So it's the product security people that we need to talk to get an API for security alerts and audit log.
Good question. Actually, so for an API for audit logs, I remember we had this conversation. I put in a feature request with product security.
Will do.
It's funny because I believe I did actually ask them. I'm like, did we do this? What's that?
You just needed to know how to route his request. He's looking at you for GitHub support right now.
Yeah, really.
Just go to @PatrickToomey or @NDM on Twitter, and then they'll handle your. I believe I actually asked them and to find out that we didn't have one. So.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. So, Ken, what else did we have on our list tonight? Right. I mean, you kind of mentioned the new GitHub feature that would just come out. Do you have that? The list in front of you?
Yeah, there was one I didn't actually get a chance to read. There was She Hacks Purple, and pushing left like a boss. But I didn't actually get a chance to read that.
That's a good one. I mean, you went to her talk? She was at Hack West. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
No, I did. Yeah.
She gave the whole talk, and now she's this, and then she's doing a blog series of each section of the SDLC type thing. But it's really good stuff. She gives a lot of recommendations. She also, I think she's the OAuth leader on DevSlop.
Yep,
I think is what it's called. And so she'd probably be a good one to have on the show as well sometime.
Yeah, and I think she'll be down in, speaking of which, Ken, I think she'll be down in Melbourne with us at AppSec Day, right?
I'm jealous of that, by the way.
Yeah, that should be a good one. So that and the
AppSec that's USA. Cool. I didn't. So she's going to be at AppSec Day then. That's cool.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, you should get to know her better because I'm pretty sure she works for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain as well. So, yeah, I'm sure. Well, actually, that's the thing is I do want to talk with Microsoft's security people just to get to see how it all works at their scale. But that's I think more of a personal and maybe career kind of curiosity. So,
yeah, I mean,
some good stories.
Kind of a security advocate, and seems to be, they're using her as a security advocate to go around and talk about security as related to Microsoft and what she does over there. So, yeah, at some point when we talk to her, we should definitely see about getting her on. So, Justin, otherwise, right? Like, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Upcoming events.
Yeah, upcoming events.
I'm waiting on St. Con and Cactus Con.
Okay.
As are you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I'd really like to go to LastCon this year, I think. So
that CFP ends, I want to say today.
Ooh, LastCon is.
Yeah, let me pick my email. 9 hours ago. Yeah, it closes today.
Okay, just go watch, right?
Wait, you can attend conferences and not speak, Ken? Did you know this?
I did not understand that concept when I first heard it. No, I seriously want to do it. I seriously want to go to LastCon, but it's just saying it's not going to happen with AppSec Day. And
is it that same week?
Well, I think it's in October and late October. Let me look. LastCon. I'm pretty sure it's late October, and I don't think I'll have. First of all, I'm not sure, geographically if that'll work out, and then just being tired, even if it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, I didn't realize it was there at the end of October. October is going to be pretty busy. Those of you that don't know, Ken and I are giving training on secure code review and how to perform secure code reviews at both AppSec USA and AppSec Day in Melbourne. If you're interested in that, let us know. We can point you at the signups, but it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. We're already deep in discussions on the course and how it's actually structured. We've got it all laid out, but now we've just got to execute on it, right? So it's something that we've done for years. I mean,
I've done a year of it.
You've done a year of it, yeah.
It's not my strength, but
it will be.
Yeah, I mean, no, like that was like the last year. That was the skill that I developed the most, I think, and it helps. I hate to admit it, but it helps when you're doing a pen test to have the code.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So
definitely, you can see under the hood of what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
well, along those lines, right? I was doing a code review today, right, and found a fairly glaring what looked like an authentication issue. They had access to an API behind the scenes right there. So there was the login to the UI, and then there was an API request that was being called afterwards. And they have planned functionality of implementing tokens, but as of right now, all you had to do was put in an authentication or an authorization header with any token value, and it would accept it and let you into the API. It was pretty fun.
Did you grep to do?
Yeah.
That's how you found it?
No. I honestly, I was following my process, right? I'd gone through okay, here's all my endpoints. Okay, here's the authentication endpoint. So I'm going to go look at how authentication is happening. And then I was like, wait a second. It's saying, does this token exist? And then passing it on, right? There's not actually analyzing this token. This is awesome, right? Yeah, it works. It was awesome. Yeah. So I mean, the process works. That's what I'm saying, right? You want to
learn that. Your guys' class can be a deep dive into your process.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, on several different languages. And also, who's the shill now promoting the course?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't know. I'm really excited to hand this stuff off because, like, you learn these things over the years and you get to pass it on to other people. And then, you hope that kind of lives on, that technique that, it's not just one person, that's retaining that knowledge or sharing it. So, and hopefully it's useful for people. I'm sure it will be.
From like using Burp and how to use Burp Suite Pro effectively in an assessment, things like that. It's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of manual effort that goes into analyzing code. So hopefully it'll be helpful and speed up your process and learning too. So,
well, we should mention that next week we don't have an episode scheduled on Tuesday because next week is DEF CON and Black Hat. We might do an impromptu sort of like on-site, maybe on Friday or something like that. Kind of, no promises. Might do something on site together since we'll be in one place. But definitely nothing scheduled for next Tuesday. In 2 weeks, we come back with Jim Manico. Jim Manico on August 14th. We've got a great lineup. Jim Manico, Asta from Singhal from Netflix, Matt Tesaro, Dave Ferguson, Rob Fuller, or at Mubix, however you know him, Eric Johnson. So we've got a bunch of people coming on the podcast over the next couple months. So it's going to be a good one. But yeah.
So you should be familiar with Jim Manico. If you're not, look up Manicode. That's his training organization. But he's one of the guys that I don't know if he one of the founders of OWASP or he was involved right there at the beginning. I know.
Yeah, he was a leader within OWASP. He actually works with now. So Jimmy and Jim, Jimmy and Jim, they work together under Manicode to doing training. Jimmy does the Kubernetes side. Jim does the secure coding side. And Jim Manico is going to, I just saw on Twitter today, he got asked to keynote at AppSec Cali. So he's going to be doing AppSec Cali this year as the keynote. So
cool.
Excited about that.
Good. Yeah, well, we'll talk to him about that a little bit. But that should be fun. I mean, the other names that you mentioned, like Eric, he's the primary for PumaScan, right? So that's his baby. That's where I actually met him, was at a Black Hat Arsenal or something like that, right?
I've been watching his videos.
AppSec USA. He's been doing stuff for a while. So, there's a lot of good people that are coming on that we're excited to talk to, as well as Justin.
Seth, have you? Justin or Seth? I mean, have you guys done AppSec Cali yet?
No.
Mm-mm. That's on my list. I was just going to go look and see when the CFP is. Because I definitely think I'd like to hit that one. It's January timeframe, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful too, because you think January and you're like, but no, it's on the beach, so it's like the perfect temperature in Santa Monica. It's at this beach house every year, like it's a perfect setting, and then also it's not a huge conference, so you've got this really refined set of speakers, meaning it's very tailored, basically really good talks, and then also they've typically got some product security related talks as well. So not only are the talks really good, the setting's beautiful, good people, good conference. You really can't go wrong.
Yeah, well, maybe we should do like an absolute AppSec visits, AppSec Cali. Yeah,
I would like that. In fact, we should do like an Airbnb. I remember doing that one year and it was awesome. We got a loft on the beach, much cheaper. Now we're just going off the rails with. But yeah, whatever. I mean, it's nice. It's very nice because you can walk to the actual venues on the beach. So you can just walk to the venue. Like if you get we rented a place that was on the beach, it was a loft on the beach. And then you can just literally walk the path up to the venue up right there on the beach. So it's really easy.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's one that's on my list. I mean, LASCON, I haven't done LASCON before either. I don't think Justin has either. That's been on there, but always seems to fall right at the same time as
St. Con usually.
St. Con and some of the other conferences that we go to. So it's always, it's always kind of difficult to navigate that fall time frame as all the different conferences that pop up. So
yeah. I think I'm saving my budget for Loco Sec though.
Oh, there you go. That's the other one I need to do, right?
Boom. Yeah, in Hawaii. It's a real it's a real tough place. Very very cold. Very it's an awesome venue. Great talks, and honestly, the interesting thing about Logo Mogosec is that it's primarily a product security conference. So if you're playing defense, it's a really useful. If you're playing, I know that's weird because I just said product security equals offense. But what I mean is, if you're working at a company and you're not at a consultancy, rather, so you're not attacking stuff for a living, it's a really useful conference.
Cool. Good offense is a good defense, or good defense is a good offense.
Yeah, whichever.
There you go.
Cool. Well, we've been going for just over an hour now. Any final thoughts, Justin?
No, I'm good.
He's good.
Well, thanks for joining us.
For talk tonight.
No, we talked about the training. We talked about the next week, and still haven't sent out the swag for the next wave. So if you want swag, send your address to absoluteappsec@gmail.com.
Both of us will be there. Use Hacker Tracker. I'm going to.
That is a good point.
So, you should. Come find us, or hit us up on Twitter. We're going to be around all during the conference. I'll be there the whole week. It sounds like Ken will be there at least for a couple of days. So, but would love to chat.
I'll bring out some stuff. You bring out some stuff. We'll stickers and buttons for people, and it should be fun. Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. See you.
All right, thanks.